If you're worried about having a corrupt country and not about the fact that this country might soon cease to exist, Suitcase, train station, Warsaw, don't bother anyone.
Hello friends, I've decided to make a separate video about Vitaly Portnikov. And now, when I tell you what I want to tell you, you'll see a pretty good selection that came from my streams. In case you haven't watched them, and if you have, it wouldn't hurt to listen again. Why am I dedicating a separate video? Once again, someone sent me another speech from this guy, this scoundrel, this villain, this rat, through the bot. And, you know, I don't like it myself. I wouldn't want to fill my channel with this kind of hatred, although I can't even call what I feel toward Portnikov hatred. When there's war, lawlessness, and the Constitution is being violated, Ukraine has grown its own dictator. Russia has Putin, and we have Zelensky. When any citizen is simply being mocked, especially men. This person, calmly by the way, being of conscription age and not at war, is spreading rhetoric that incites internal national discord, if you can put it that way, and sets citizens against each other. Basically, people like Portnikov are pushing Ukraine towards civil war. I'm not joking. Please watch this 25-second clip that outraged me and made me record this video.
It's not a critical mass, but an active group is deciding to leave Ukraine. $6 million found in the bed of the Khmelnytsky region's Medical and Social Expert Commission head is more shocking than the Russian armed forces.
If they're more worried about that than the Russian armed forces, that's their issue. I'm not a doctor, and I've said this many times, no nonsense. If you're more concerned about corruption than your country's survival, pack up, go to the train station, head to Warsaw, and stop bothering people.
In your opinion?
Suitcase, train station, Warsaw. We've heard suitcase, train station, Russia many times with you. For any reason. They just don't like you. You just have different political views. And in the end, you're Russian speaking in Ukraine. Suitcase, train station, Russia. I still hear this today, even directed at me, though I speak both languages perfectly. And this guy said, suitcase, train station, Warsaw. He thinks that corruption shouldn't concern you. You should just sit and think that the main thing is for Putin not to capture Ukraine. And what brought the war to Ukraine? It was corruption that brought the war to Ukraine. Corruption that literally destroyed our state, which is not even a country. The state is rotten through because of corruption. And today, during the war, corruption has increased. It has become more brazen and has grown. Those people they mentioned from the Medical Social Commission who are swimming in dollars, and look, there's the Bureau of Economic Security and all the others. They're all super well off. They're all multimillionaires in dollars. But Portnikov doesn't pay attention to this, does he? He ignores 30-year-old police and militia generals in the security service of Ukraine who escaped detention by paying $1 million in cash, often ending up under house arrest or free. Just like that, in 2 hours. Pashinsky and all the others, it's all rot, all corruption. These corrupt officials are tearing our state, our country apart. But people like Portnikov say ignore it and just focus on Putin. This will be a never-ending story. You can fight with Putin and keep stealing forever. Who benefits in this scheme? Those who profit from the war and the officials. Not you, not us, not the citizens of Ukraine. Portnikov is benefiting. All this service staff, the media service staff of this regime. The scum sits in the studio telling you how to fight. Even claiming human life is overrated. Stay tuned and watch the video until the end. And he said a lot of other things too. And believe me, in a year the narratives will completely change. He'll be singing a different tune, the one his masters tell him to. This man was educated in Russia, has always spoken Russian, and honestly, no one even knows how he identifies himself. Since he was Jewish, he changed his last name. Possibly out of shame or fear it would affect his chances of entering a higher education institution. Fighters don't act like that. People don't act like that. That's how rats and petty individuals behave. Those who just want to sneak their way in somewhere. And photos of him wearing a tie in the colors of Russia. And how he is there, I suspect, but I can't say for sure. He worked at the State Security Committee and the Federal Security Service when it was profitable. Then, there was one narrative. Now it's profitable to work here, so there's a new narrative. And later there will be another. He provokes conflict, turning people against each other over fake issues invented by politicians. Who benefits? Let's just make it as simple as possible. Who benefits from internal discord starting in Ukraine? Russia and Putin. That's right. He doesn't even need missiles, any armies. any mercenaries, any private military companies like Wagner. He won't need any of that. We'll do it all ourselves. People like Portnikov will help, but only from a cozy, well-paid studio, not the front lines. And trust me, that's not just their official salary. He'll say you need to pay and raise taxes, fight for 35 years and send women to the front. You'll hear it all soon. Subscribe to my channel now. Watch the video to the end. This is actually my favorite. I'll even zoom in. Vitaly Portnikov, who every third person probably gets super excited about. I rarely post these reels on Instagram, but God, it touched me. Somehow I didn't mention Portnikov there, but just a clip from that YouTube stream. And then women came at me like, how dare you touch him? Yeah, he's smart, right? To you, he's smart, educated, great. Another militant figure, a nationalist, who changed his Jewish last name to a Russian one.
This war can't continue due to a lack of mobilization and manpower.
I don't see any mobilization or human resources issues in a country of 30 million with an army of just 1 million. This mobilization resource exists and will last for the next 5 to 10 years.
Got it? Everyone will be in the army, but not Portnikov. Well, this madam won't be either. She'll be sitting with Portnikov. All right, I'll keep quiet so there's no discrimination. Portnikov will be sitting in a chair that's 4 times wider than his shoulders, like a king. And he'll be telling the camera, that's enough. And those with pots on their heads will be shouting, you're so smart, Vitaly. You're the best. So smart, saying 30 million. But there's only 1 million at the front. That's not right. That's actually how everything is set up. That's how it all works. Not everyone can be at the front, and not everyone should be there. Even if we leave aside the fact that the war needs to end. But Portnikov doesn't want the war to end, you see, people. He needs the war. He needs to be in demand. Everything will be fine for him.
The state might simply be forced to act more harshly. It might become even harsher towards its citizens. It might lower the mobilization age. It might...
Oh, recognize it? We watched it 5 minutes ago. This member of parliament was talking about the need to lower the mobilization age. Portnikov too. They're preparing you with predictive programming, getting you ready to lower it. Soon we'll have the draft age.
They might start mobilizing women. All of this could happen in the coming years, just like it happens in Israel, for example.
Now I want your attention. Many people were outraged, and I've condemned this rat multiple times. Portnikov is out of his mind. Just listen to what he said.
I don't write to anyone, but I want to explain. I believe that if the value of human life increases for us, it will create a problem for our further survival in the war. Because in a war with Russia, only Russia can survive. Only a country where the value of human life is, in principle, close to the Russian level. So we ourselves should be interested in making people think this way. This is Ukraine's only way to endure the coming years of war.
Once again, after what? Well, listen again.
I believe that I don't write anything to anyone. I really want to explain. I believe that if the value of human life increases for us, it will create a problem for us in our further survival in the war. Because in a war with Russia, only Russia can survive. Only a country where the value of human life is basically at a level close to that of Russia. We should want people to think this way. It's Ukraine's only chance to endure the coming years of war.
Well, please write in the comments. Was it Solovyov who said that life is overrated, or Medvedev? It was in Russia that there was this idea that life is overrated when they started the war against us, when Russia unleashed it, right? They were the ones saying that? Life is overrated. Now there's this guy coming out who lived in Russia for decades. Yeah, of course, he wasn't connected to the State Security Committee. I'm telling you for sure, and now he's pushing the same ideas that Solovyov was talking about because he's the same kind of propagandist. A propagandist. A stinking outcast of society. A scumbag who says that the value of life in Ukraine needs to be lowered. While I say that the value of life in Ukraine should become the #1 priority. Like in Israel, brains and the person, his life, and in America, it's the same. And that's why there are problems in all post-Soviet countries, because a person's life is worth nothing. And today he says that it's still overvalued and that to defeat Russia, it needs to be completely devalued, and he's preparing people for this. And basically, the state is actually ahead of schedule in devaluing the lives of our citizens. I'm addressing the people who, when I first touched this rat, he has the face of a rat. When I first mentioned him, you wrote to me, "How dare you? He's incredibly smart, very smart. You're nowhere near his level." Yes, he's read more books and is better educated. If I'm right, he graduated from Moscow State University. Yes, I admit all that, but what's the point? And I am a Kyiv entrepreneur who has created hundreds of jobs and has never served any master, who has his own point of view. Yes, I have suffered for it in every sense, but today I have the opportunity to speak the truth. And this scum says today that your life should be devalued. And you listen to him? Do you have any self-respect at all? Those of you who listen to him, do you respect yourselves? You can make mistakes for a while and fall under the spell of this. I don't even want to say it. Birds that start with the letter P. You can do all that, but if he said something like that, then in my opinion, you should immediately stop listening to him. That's how it seems to me. That's what I do. But our people now, believe me, when this stream ends, they'll watch the recordings, rush to the comments, and say Portnikov is the best. You're not close to him. When you ask, can you explain why? What is he right about and what am I wrong about? Well, they'll immediately run and say, yeah, you're a Russist, propaganda, what? Common sense? No, they won't answer. They'll just defend themselves with a set of cliches or just make a crude joke. That's another favorite trick of theirs. That's how it is. But Portnikov's life, of course, is very precious in every sense, I think. So that he sits in that little chair in front of the camera and tells you people to devalue your own lives, go to Putin's front lines, because otherwise we won't win. I'll sit here and tell you fairy tales about fighting for another 10 or 20 years, since I'm getting paid for it. Honestly, I don't care about Ukraine or its future. I'll always find someone to pay me for this filth. That's how it works, and you can't ignore it. These people are now seen as Ukraine's intellectual elite, the intelligentsia. I want to report everything else too. This scum is the lowest for me. That's all. And how are they going to look you in the eye after the war, after saying things like that? I don't know. You need to start with self-respect, respecting yourself, and still try to gradually figure out what's what. Get comfortable because what's next will blow most people's minds.
The alternative is real. Either the war drags on for years into the 2020s and 2030s with nothing changing since it's already lasted through the 2010s and 2020s.
Look at that rat-like smile. Look at the screen right now. Is this the person who wishes Ukraine well? This is Portnikov, loved by many of you, whose videos you watch millions of times. You say he's a super smart academic, honestly. It makes you want to scream. He smiles and talks about fighting for 10 years. Keep listening.
It's already a big war. It's been going on for 2.5 years. Who told you it can't last another 10 years? Exactly, and calmly. It can take different forms, high intensity, low intensity, or there's a truce, the kind of truce the Chinese are talking about, if we agree to it, but on terms that will shock Ukrainian society. That is, the territories will actually be controlled by the Russians. There will just be a ceasefire along the line of contact and no security guarantees. That's how it could be, and it could happen sooner, maybe even in a week. If the Russians agree to this, not us, because we keep saying we won't agree to it, but the Russians aren't seeking this either. If the Russians said they were ready, I admit that many in the West will say it's better this way than 20 years, and it could happen, but we have to be prepared for the fact that we won't like it because we've been fighting for a long time. And as a result of Russia's exhaustion, we have a chance to get the outcome that seems better to us, or we end things quickly, and as a result of the exhaustion of both Russia and Ukraine, we get an outcome that won't seem better to us. Just two approaches.
You're such a Chris, such a scoundrel. Look at what he's saying. Either we fight for a long time, and maybe everything will be fine. But that's not certain. Maybe we'll achieve our goals, or maybe not. That's not certain either. And look at the studio he's broadcasting from. Expensive, comfortable. Is he planning to fight with his tongue for 10 years there? Well, then it could be 20 or 30 years, as long as he has left to live. What a wonderful approach. He says we'll achieve our goals, Russia has 145 or 140 million people. I told you about their income, which has been restored. Raw materials are back to pre-war levels. Their own weapons production. A madman at the helm obsessed with war, who will militarize everyone if needed. Does he really think he can defeat them? A major nuclear power? These two clueless journalists just sit there, not even asking what victory means. We're listening to all of this, but I can't stand it. The rat just sits, smiling and talking. You'll fight for 10 years while I talk and profit for 10 years, feeding you propaganda. We talked to Balashov yesterday. Why didn't you discuss how people should live in peace, the economy, or the future? At least what Koch, who isn't Ukrainian, said, that in 40 years the country simply won't exist. And now, you see, I don't even bring that up anymore. It was everywhere. 300,000 migrants need to be brought in because there's no one to work. That's the future for everyone. Do you know what these so-called patriots are writing? They write, yes, we'll teach these Syrians Ukrainian faster than these little Russians. For them, little Russians are Ukrainians who speak Russian, like they're unteachable. We'll teach Syrians faster. So, are these fools preparing the future for Ukraine? And people like Portnikov, for whom this is, let's say, their business? It tears me apart. There is nothing Ukrainian in his speeches. He is purely a propagandist and a scoundrel.
What can be done during the truce? First of all, spend the entire military state budget on further military efforts.
Again, that little smile. Do you see that smile?
A policy to modernize the military-industrial complex, to build missiles. Make it clear, people will have high taxes.
There will be high taxes. Do you understand what this communist, this leftist, this one who wasn't finished off, what kind of country Portnikov has prepared for you? This intellectual of yours who has read 1,350,000 books. Taxes need to be raised. But who will stay in the country with higher taxes? With war? With higher taxes? With some people in balaclavas without any identification marks? With a pistol? Who are grabbing everyone indiscriminately?
Fortifications, there won't be any, no social.
Again satisfied, there will be no social benefits. Oh, what a wonderful life awaits Ukrainians.
The retirement age will be raised.
Again, the retirement age will be raised to 80. You'll retire, but honestly, you won't live to see it. Look at him. His emotions are so human, like a little blue flower blooming.
Small pensions. You won't find rivers with chocolate shores here if you want to preserve Ukraine and prevent war.
And here's the thing. It means only this option. High taxes, no pensions, you'll die. But then, maybe, I repeat, but it's not certain. You might preserve Ukraine and Portnikov's job naturally. That's the way out. Meaning there's no other way to stop this war and build a normal state. Probably already on smaller territories, but you're not to blame. It's the fault of certain people whose names we all know. But you see what Tishchenko did. And today, Mirror Weekly publishes the response from the Servant of the People faction. Tishchenko will face consequences in the next elections. Is that normal? So you can do whatever you want and the only consequence is political. I just won't vote for you next time. Tishchenko will collect 30 or 40 million and move abroad during this time. And here, excuse me, Portnikov will keep feeding us crap as usual and smiling. Just look at him again. See how much pleasure it brings him. What's even going on? Larissa writes, Portnikov is absolutely right. But we have to tolerate such idiots among our fellow citizens.
So that you don't have to sit in bomb shelters, so that your children don't die in the war, or it's a suitcase Europe goodbye. Look for a place for yourself there, or if you want to live in Ukraine, in this kind of Ukraine, we'll wait for changes in Russia.
Let me show you this now. Look at that little smile. Oh, good job, really, just great. Or he says, take your suitcase, leave, go look for happiness somewhere else. Borders are closed. You're a rear rat. Borders are closed.
Right now, we need to create a country Russia will fear attacking.
There will be trouble. In Salvador or Kotoroi, Trump will make his last speech in America, he said. I will cover all of America with an iron dome. Pavel. Economics isn't just about raising taxes. That sums up Portnikov's understanding. It's like trying to get more milk from a cow by feeding it less and milking it more.
Buddy, that's not how an academic works. That's not how it works. It works differently. It works differently. People are writing a lot, calling him names. They're shocked. What am I supposed to tell you? But I already told you this. I lived through it.
Portnikov, scum, rat, and bastard.
A scoundrel is anti-Ukrainian. Just reading in Ukrainian or separating your Ivanko doesn't make him a patriot.
To sum up, I also want to mention the people who will definitely comment on this video.
On top of that, he's so educated. With 35 higher educations, a super mega intellectual. Everything else is just tricks.
And a diminutifier of purchases. Very often he just remains a person who has read a lot. And by the way, this relates to intellect.
It has nothing to do with decency, nothing to do with a maternal view of the state, and in the end, nothing to do with the right proposals.
And most importantly, tricks with skills and knowledge about how to implement it have nothing to do with it at all. It's just for suckers.
These kinds of pseudo-intellectuals used to be put on television, now it's YouTube. And they're paid to influence you.
Because the proletarian plebs, how do they think? They see someone like this Taylor who throws around fancy words and knows how to chatter. Of course, it's impressive. I'm not arguing with that. He gets into your head, and a person like that sits there, and later people think, wow, he's so smart. He definitely knows better how we should live. It used to be like that, you know, with officials. If he has a briefcase, then he must be smarter. Those people, they definitely know better how we should live.
That's all nonsense.